So in every hobby, there's things you enjoy doing and things you don't like doing as much. Woodworking is no different. For instance, I don't really like to sand, and I don't know really any other woodworkers that do. I don't know why so much. It's tedious, it takes a lot of time, and you're so close to the finish line at that point that you just kind of want to get done, get the finish on it, and then like unveil it to the world. One of the things I really enjoy doing though is when I'm done gluing up my joinery and I've put some pins in or something to that effect, or I need to cut the very ends off of like a lap joint or something, I get to use my flush cut saw. Now, I don't know why it's so satisfying to me, but it is. This is what we're talking about. Kind of has a nice ring to it. Literally has a nice ring to it. I imagine this is probably something that would be like a triangle in one of those bands that plays the saws.
Pretty satisfying.
I have the worst chisels. They're secondhand, and I think the first owner, instead of ever sharpening them, I think he just used a heavier mallet each time. So they're bent and a little warped and a little rusty, and in general, just pretty terrible examples of anything a woodworker should own. But they work for me. You see, I learned early on to sharpen these to a pretty dangerous edge. Actually, they're really quite dangerous. I cut myself a lot. In fact, here's an Easter egg for you. When you're watching my videos, count how many times you see a Band-Aid or some kind of tape on my hands. Odds are it was due to pretty bad technique, but also one of my terrible but wicked sharp chisels. I only bring this up because chisels, good chisels, are expensive. You're way better off spending that money early on a set of diamond stones and a good honing guide. Oh, and glass cleaner. You need glass cleaner. Not that pansy ammonia-free crap either. Real, honest-to-goodness glass cleaner that you might have found in a supermarket in the 50s. It keeps the abrasive and the stones clear, and also keeps any rust at bay. You can find all kinds of videos on this stuff, or maybe I'll make one, I don't know. Man, watching this back, I need to get some decent chisels. we are going to assemble the table bases today. And we're going to do that without any clamps because we set the entire thing up to use drawboring. At present, this is easily my favorite way to put stuff together. It's really solid joinery, and it's simple. And it's not as beautiful maybe or as traditional. It actually is probably more traditional, but it's maybe not as beautiful as some of like the houndstooth dovetailing and some of the more, I don't know, intricate sort of fancy pants ways of doing some of the joinery that I see on Instagram and YouTube and all that. But I tell you what, if you just want a solid joint, this is the way to go. And the way you do this, I think I've covered it before, is you essentially, you've got a hole in your tenon, you've got a hole in your mortise, and they're just slightly offset so that when you drive the pin through here, you actually line them up and suck the tenon right into the mortise as tight as it could ever be. As tight or tighter even maybe than a clamp. And that's really cool too, because if you got everything square from your shoulders and your leg base, if that's all square, then you're going to end up with a perfect 90-degree either way. So you don't even have to really measure and check for squareness, because your faces, which you've hopefully done correctly, are just going to align that for you. So that is one of the reasons I really like it. The other reason I really like it is because it is just absolutely traditional and old and cool. It's something that maybe Jebediah and Malachi would have used in the late 1800s to raise a barn or build a cabin when they were homesteading. But anyway, I like bringing that kind of old-timey woodworking technique back into my stuff. Plus, I can't do dovetails yet. But anyway, this is beautiful in sunrise, so we're going to do that. So you want to make sure that you're using the family or the pair of Morse and tenon joints when you're doing this. Otherwise, the holes will be a little bit off, and then you won't be able to get the pin through, and it'll just be a mess. But if you just label everything correctly, and you've paid some attention to making sure that it's set up well, it's really easy. In fact, when I was building this bench, I used Morse and tenons with drawboring, and that made it so I didn't have to use any clamps when I was doing the glue up. And it made this thing solid and tight and beautiful. So, well, beautiful. It's a workbench. So I'm just going to make sure I got all my pins here. And again, these are red oak. So this is all red oak. These are oak. I assume they're red oak because it's probably a little bit cheaper for the places to have it. And I literally just cut up a dowel and then sort of back here on my disc sander, I just kind of ran them through to kind of taper the edge a little bit. And all that's going to do is sort of set the path for this guy to go through. Where the holes line up, they're not exactly, perfectly aligned. They're offset just a little bit on purpose. But what it does is it makes the hole just a little bit smaller. So it needs a little bit of a taper to get it through and get it started. And then it can spread the wood out, pull in the tenon, and it'll go from there. The other thing about this is you want to kind of make sure there's some glue on the pin, because the glue acts as sort of a lubricant to kind of get it all through. It'll be tight and it'll have to pound it a little bit, but it'll suck it in and it'll be great. And the wood will actually bend just a little bit or have a little bit of give to it. So these don't need to be perfect, because they'll sort of make themselves work. When I was doing this workbench, there was one that was actually pretty off, and I had to work it pretty good. And when I looked at it afterwards, I could actually see how the pin had sort of bent a little bit, and how it had misshapen the wood in the Morse and tenon. It wasn't beautiful, but did it ever have some strength and some tightness to it. All right, what do we got next? We got to get E and F. It's kind of like, at some point, it's kind of like making IKEA furniture. You just sort of look at your, A and B, or in this case, E and F, and then you just go find E and F. It's B and C, you don't want that. See how the sound kind of changes? That's how you know you've hit. You can also feel it in your mallet. It's kind of a hollow feeling that goes to a rock well, wood, solid wood feeling. I was gonna say rock hard feeling, but we're not using rocks, are we? We're using wood, so we had hard wood feeling. Probably have to come up with a different name for that as I'm editing this guy. Whatever. Okay, so this is